먼저 오늘 참석해주신 기자님들께 한 분씩 좀 인사를 부탁드려야 될 것 같은데, 우리 스칼렛과 우리 가렛 감독님은 이미 두 번째 방문이시고, 그리고 또 우리 조나단 그리고 루퍼트는 첫 방문이라 소감이 남다를 것 같아요. 한 분씩 인사 좀 부탁드릴까요?
Yeah, I came. My wife Amy Mullins was giving a speech here in Seoul, and we had a fantastic time. We met veterans, we met politicians, we met fans, all kinds of people. And this morning I asked if they could bring me some gochujang, and it was a beautiful thing to revisit that flavor memory in my mouth.
다녀오셨군요. 한국에 저희보다 더 좋은 데를 많이 알고 계시는 것 같아요.
I feel like you know better spaces or even better food probably more than us in Korea.
자, 스칼렛 소감
How about you,
한번 들어볼까요?
Hey, oh my gosh, we're so excited to be here. I'm so excited to be back here. I wish I had more time to be here. This morning I just ended up going to buy a bunch of makeup and skincare. That was my day. I was like, I have to go and do that first. And I think I had about 7 kinds of kimchi at the breakfast this morning. But yeah, we're so excited to meet the fans tonight. Mostly because they're just always so loving, so welcoming and warm. So yeah, we can't wait. We'll be in Times Square tonight. Very exciting.
맞아요. 한국 팬들도 우리 스칼렛 요한슨 오래 기다렸고 또 이렇게 서울을 마음껏 또 즐겨주시니까 너무 좋네요.
The fans cannot wait to meet you guys, so we're really excited for tonight as well.
자, 조나단 베일리.
Hello.
Hello.
안녕.
소감 좀 부탁드릴까요?
Tell us how it feels to be here.
I am so excited. I know and I hear that the Korean fans are the best in the world. And I know that there's such a huge love of cinema here. So to celebrate a film that I'm so proud to be a part of, that I know so many Korean fans love Jurassic as much as we do. I've already had 2 bibimbaps. So I have to leave tomorrow morning, but I'm making the most of every minute I have here, and I'm very excited.
내일 아침에 또 가야 된다는 게 슬프지만 오늘 마음껏 즐겨주시길 바라고.
So sad that you have to leave so soon.
I
So
know.
enjoy as much as you can.
I will.
감독님.
And Gareth, how does it feel?
Yeah, I basically, my first ever movie was a monster movie. It was very low budget, but I got invited to Korea to Punchin, the Pfan Film Festival, and it won an award there, which is where I realized that Koreans have the best taste in the world. And I got to hang out with the producer from Old Boy, and I went round Seoul and I looked at the locations from the host, because I'm a film geek. So I had an amazing time that I'll always remember.
질문 있으신 기자님은 손을 들어주시고요. 질문하실 때 매체명과 그리고 성함을 함께 말씀 부탁드리겠습니다. 질문 있으신 기자님, 네, 지금 많이 손을 들어주셨는데 기자님 잠시만요. 먼저 오른쪽에 기자님이 제일 먼저 손을 들어주셔서 안녕하세요.
안녕하세요. 스카이데일리 이유경 기자라고
반갑습니다.
합니다.
네.
반갑습니다. 한국에 오셔가지고 또 이번에 좋은 영화 이렇게 또 저도 잘 감상을 했는데 일단 가렛 에드워즈 감독님께 먼저 질문을 드리고 싶은 부분은 쥬라기 시리즈는 뭐니 해도 이제 아이코닉한 요소가 이제 자연환경 이런 부분을 그러니까 담으실 때 실제 뭐 독뱀이나 이런 뭐 이제 위험도 있으셨다라고 하셨는데 이제 이런 자연환경을 담기 위한 현장에서의 노력을 좀 에피소드 관련 있다면 좀 생생하게 듣고 싶고 스칼렛 요한슨 배우님께 이제 질문 드리고 싶은 부분은 이제 상상 속의 공룡과 연기를 하셨는데 이 공룡이 이제 유전자 변이나 조작 실험으로 이제 더 공포스럽고 최악이라고 묘사가 될 정도로 가장 위험한 공룡으로 이번 시즌에 등장을 하는데 그럴 때 이제 어떻게 보면 이제 작품 자체의 주인공이 공룡처럼 저는 느껴지기도 해가지고 이런 상상 속의 공룡과의 연기가 어떠셨는지 어려운 점은 없으셨는지 마지막으로 이 공룡과 최전선에서 이제 대적하는 주인공이 되신 소감을 듣고 싶습니다.
Well, I can tell them now. I couldn't tell them when we were filming. I had to keep them a secret because I didn't want to get the actors worried. But there's a scene that you might have seen in the trailer where Scarlett and everybody is in a mangrove swamp up to here. And we did a little scout of that location. And then I heard some shouting, and we went over to where they were shouting, and basically the snake wrangler had caught a massive poisonous snake with yellow and black stripes and was having to carry it out of the water. And I made the whole crew promise never to tell the actors, because they would never shoot the movie. And so we kept it secret until now. And so now they can learn that basically
오늘 알았네요.
we lied.
Now
and
you
said it
know.
was safe.
오늘 모든 것이 서울에서 밝혀질 거라고는 상상도 못했어요.
Well, I have to say one of the one of the hardest parts I think of making the movie is that, of course, we're not really fighting against the dinosaurs. We're fighting against a tennis ball on a stick, and so trying to keep up the stamina of terror and determination and just the stakes being so high of all of those big sequences. And then of course you have one, they'll say action, you give this very determined look or very terrified look, and then cut, and then, oh wait, there's a problem with the camera, and we have to now have 6 minutes where we're doing this, a technical issue, and then, okay, now we're going to be determined again and terrified again, and so, it's a lot of ups and downs, and just keeping that stamina alive, I think, was one of the most challenging things. Or the awe, or the wonder, or any of those, because again, you're just acting against the tennis ball on the stick. But I have to say that we had such an amazing cast, and we all kept each other in the zone, so to speak, which is really important to have the trust in your fellow castmates that you're not going to be embarrassed by these crazy reactions, and that we're all kind of going for the same thing. You sort of look to the other actors to kind of take the temperature. Are we all doing the same thing? You know what I mean? Do we all have the same, are the stakes the same for all of us? That type of thing. It's really important. But of course, I got very lucky.
또 질문 있으신 기자님, 이번에 중앙 쪽으로 가보도록 하겠습니다. 마이크를 기자님 받아주시겠어요? 네. 기자님 잠시만요. 안녕하세요.
네, 안녕하세요. 저 머니투데이 방송 천윤혜고요.
반갑습니다.
네, 반갑습니다. 저는 조나단 베일리 배우님과 루퍼트 프렌드 배우님께 질문이 있는데요. 이 쥬라기 세계관에서 촬영을 하시면서 가장 놀랐던 순간이 있다면 언제셨는지 궁금하고, 또 이번에 각자 맡은 캐릭터를 연기하기 위해서 가장 중점을 둔 지점은 어떤 부분이었는지 궁금합니다.
I remember seeing the scene where we all come across the titanosaurs in this beautiful field, these majestic, gargantuan beasts. And I was standing back and watching Jonathan, who plays a paleontologist and someone who's loved dinosaurs his whole life, finally getting to see one in the flesh. I'm actually getting goosebumps right now telling you. There was nothing there. And when he played that scene and was so moved by touching a dinosaur for the first time, I was so moved I nearly cried. And there was nothing there. And I was like, this is a testimony to the power of imagination, and I think it's one of the great things about this franchise is it speaks to that power, and getting to be there watching that work was very transformative for me.
조나단 이야기도 좀 들어볼까요?
How about you, Jonathan?
Well, I think the first Jurassic Park film I saw when I was 5 years old, I think for so many of us fans, it sparked an imagination, and I speak to what Rupert said. But what I was surprised by was, even though these are huge, massive films, in that one moment, Gareth, our director, it wasn't in the script, but he operated the camera. It was just me and him. We played some music, and it's amazing that in such a big film, beautifully led by Scarlett, with love and kindness and expertise, it more often than not felt very small. We had a very small family. We could shoot things that weren't on the page, so it meant that there were lots of instinct and intimate moments, and that was my big takeaway. But I think that might be down to Scarlett and down to Gareth, some amazing leaders, and Frank Marshall, the producer.
I think the most important thing to me when I was talking to David Koepp about the character was that she felt like a woman who was 40 years old and had a whole career up until that point. And she's, special ops. She had a career in the military, and really feels like someone who is sort of at a bit of a crossroads. She's burnt out, and she's looking to do something for herself for the first time, maybe in in decades. And I think once we understand where she's at and the loss that she's experienced and the place she finds herself, then the stakes are high. And David Koepp so brilliantly establishes those stakes for each of these characters at the very beginning of the film. So there's a lot of, because later on there's not as much room for that, because there's a lot of plot and action and all of that happens. And so it was really just, about making sure that she felt like someone who came from a real place, and we understood and established exactly where she was in her life. You know.
그 대본을 보고 굉장히 지금 캐릭터 연구를 많이 하신 것 같아요. 다음은 루퍼트 이야기를 좀 들어볼까요?
Ask you the same question, Rupert?
Yeah, I mean, picking up on what Scarlett said, you know, they are very distinct characters and each has their own motivation. But ultimately, if they don't work as a team, it will fail. So although they fracture as a team, my character kind of goes off on his own for reasons that you'll see when you watch the film. In making the film and also in the story of the film, there was a very strong sense of camaraderie, of teamwork, of family, even though they were all separate with disparate motives. And that was a very powerful driving force throughout the shooting process, I think.
맞아요. 이게 목적이 다르더라도 그 정말 위험천만한 곳에서 하나가 될 수밖에 없을 것 같아요. 예. 그렇다면 조나단 이야기 들어볼까요?
Can we hear from you again, Jonathan?
Yes, of course. I think when I was going to play a paleontologist, a doctor in the Jurassic franchise, I knew the beauty of playing a character that is so passionate and about dinosaurs, but about the natural world. And I suppose when approaching Loomis, you wanted to capture the curiosity, the wonder. And I was thinking about what it is to be a nerd. That we call people nerds, but I think nerds are cool because it's something that you spend your whole life learning about, and knowing that one moment of him going into the wild and be able to see a dinosaur, that's the equivalent of what we're all searching for in our own lives, I think. But it was easy for me because me being in a Jurassic film was the equivalent of Dr. Henry Loomis touching a dinosaur.
기자님 안녕하세요.
네, 안녕하세요. IMBC연의 김종훈 기자라고 하고요.
반갑습니다.
네, 반갑습니다. 그 감독님께 질문 하나 드리고 싶은데, 이게 그 새로운 시작이라는 부제를 달고 있는 만큼 이 정체성과 그 새로운 것을 보여준다는 그 밸런스를 맞추기가 무척 힘들었을 것 같은데, 그 고민들을 좀 어떻게 해결했는지, 또 1편을 연출한 그 코앱 작가님께 따로 조언을 받은 게 있는지 여쭤보고 싶습니다.
Yeah, I mean, basically, I don't know the answer to the question because I'm still trying to figure out myself. I think the main key to making a film like this is to be a fan. If someone was to say, please write down what makes a Jurassic film successful, I wouldn't be able to put it into words. I feel like the best thing about cinema is it goes beyond language and you feel it. Everybody knows what it is and isn't, but you cannot communicate it with words often. And so you have to be a fan. And basically the journey of making a movie is you're making like what feels like hundreds of decisions a day. And so every time you make a decision, if you go left, you're just copying the original Jurassic Park. If you go right, then it's not Jurassic. And so it's a very fine line, and you're just navigating, like macheteing through the jungle, like the characters, just trying to find like the perfect path by the end. And at the end, you know, like the dinosaurs, you release them into the world, and then we find out from the fans, you know, how they feel. But yeah, it's I can't tell you the magic trick. I wish there was one. I asked David Koepp and Spielberg if there was some special ingredient, and nobody knows. I mean, I think the most important thing, this was a very selfish film. I made it for myself because I love Jurassic Park, and it's my love letter to Steven Spielberg, really. It's the honest truth.
이번에 배우로 함께 하시면서도 새로움과 그리고 정체성에 있어서 고민이 많았을 것 같아요.
You know, I really was incredibly lucky to be able to read the script that David Koepp wrote and understand. I mean, I was, no matter what, I would have been just honored to be able to have a peek inside what the Jurassic world was going to be, whether or not I participated in it or not. I was so excited and honored to be able to read the script and know that there was, you know, ongoing conversation with our producer Frank Marshall and with Steven. what I wasn't expecting necessarily was that once I had read it, I had these thoughts about the character of Zora, and again wanting her to feel, like somebody who came from somewhere and was a sum of all of her parts, for better or worse. And I didn't expect that David Koepp and Stephen and Frank would be completely open, actually, to having character discussions with me, and they were really excited and curious about my thoughts on the character of Zora. And within, we had a wonderful conversation that I felt like a productive conversation, but you don't know ever what's going to come out of it. And then a few weeks later, or even a couple of weeks later, David Koepp delivered a new version of the script, or a new draft of the script, and he had incorporated all of the conversation that we had spoken about, and really had heard what I said and respected it, and even added to it, and wrote beautiful scenes for both Mahershala and I. We have a wonderful dramatic scene. Jonathan and I had the opportunity to have a really wonderful dramatic scene that incorporated these ideas. And so it really was on all levels a dream come true. I never would have imagined that I could have as much of an impact on something, or never would have expected it to have as much of an impact on Jurassic. And I'm still processing it, because it really is, like I said, it's a childhood dream come true for me.
손을 오래 들어오시는데 감사합니다. 안녕하세요, 기자님.
안녕하세요. 저 스포티비 뉴스 강효진 기자라고
반갑습니다.
하고요.
네.
스칼렛 요한슨께 질문 드리겠습니다. 이번 작품에서 스칼렛이 암벽을 타거나 이제 배에 매달리는 그 주요 액션 시퀀스를 대부분 소화하면서 이제 주도적인 캐릭터를 보여주셨는데, 이런 설정이 시나리오 단계부터 있던 캐릭터인지, 아니면은 이제 액션 스타인 스칼렛이 합류하면서 배우 이미지가 반영이 된 덕분인지 궁금하고요. 스칼렛이 직접 의견을 내고 준비한 조라 캐릭터 디테일이나 설정 같은 게 어떤 게 있는지 말씀해 주시면 감사하겠습니다. 그리고
네.
쥬라기 공원 팬으로서 이번 작품에서 어떤 공룡 제일 좋아하시는지 말씀해 주시면 좋겠습니다.
Well, I'll answer the easiest question. I would say a triceratops is my favorite dinosaur, because I loved it ever since I was a kid, because it's so cute. And I was always amazed by the giant head. When you go to the Museum of Natural History in New York, and they have this crazy skull, and you see the whole frontal part of the skull, and I just was always amazed by that. And they're so cute. I would say the stunt work, it's funny, I'm so used to doing fight choreography and mostly all of the action films that I've done. And in this film, I really spent a lot of time running away and towards the dinosaurs. So it was kind of a relief to not have as much fight choreography. Although Jonathan and I both had to learn how to do the abseiling that you were mentioning, which felt a little counterintuitive at first, just the mechanism of it. But actually it was a lot of fun. Until we were shooting the scene and we were wearing a harness inside of our clothes, because we're actually harnessed to a wire rig, like a stunt rig. And then on the outside of our clothes, we had another harness that was supposed to look like our abseiling harness. It was the actual equipment. So wearing two harnesses and hanging, 60 feet in the air or whatever for a full week was, I would say, I've been more comfortable in my life. And as far as Zora's character, it was actually important to me that there was not any sort of that her character story didn't revolve around, her desirability or the male gaze or any sort of romantic, relationship. I was like, if that's not what this movie is really for, and I think the fans would sort of be disappointed, it just didn't feel like it was the time for that. And I feel proud of the fact that, her story doesn't revolve around those things. Not to say that she doesn't have, a particular shine for Jonathan's character, which I think you can feel the chemistry between them, but it feels like a respectful relationship and maybe the opportunity for the beginning of something, we don't know.
I'm going for the Aqualops, which is Dolores in the film, the very cute little kind of almost tame pet dinosaur. Yeah.
I think it has to be the Dilophosaurus for me, the one that goes. To me, that's the image of Jurassic. I remember it very well when I was 5 years old.
다 좋아하는 공룡이 다르네요. 예.
You each have different favorite dinosaurs, which is very interesting.
감독님 궁금한데요?
Gareth, can you tell us your favorite dinosaur?
I have to be very careful how I answer this question because to get each dinosaur in the movie, we promised them that they were the star of the film. And as now the movie's coming out, the T-Rex has seen the poster with the Mosasaurus in it and the Spinosaurus, and they're getting very jealous of each other. And it's becoming a real problem for Universal Studios to negotiate the contracts for the film. So it's whatever dinosaur I'm in front of. So right now I'm going to say the T-Rex. I mean, actually Scarlett's pretty big up there as well. Maybe Scarlett's my favorite dinosaur.
여러 이해관계들이 있어요.
SR타임즈 신무신 기자입니다.
네.
먼저 감독님께 여쭤보고요. 그다음에 전체적으로 좀 공통 질문을 드릴게요. 이제 감독님께는 앞서 이제 고질라를 연출하셨는데 이번 작품 같은 경우에는 이제 괴수 영화적인 부분도 있고 공포 영화적인 부분도 있고 서바이벌 영화적인 어떤 그런 부분이 있어요. 그래서 각 장르적 요소에서 좀 주요하게 좀 연출에 포인트를 주신 부분이 어떤 부분인지 좀 궁금하고요. 그다음에 이제 감독님, 배우님 포함해서 전체 공통 질문인데요. 이 영화를 극장에서 꼭 봐야만 하는 이유에 대해서 말씀 주시면 감사하겠습니다.
네, 감사합니다.
I knew a Godzilla question was coming. It's the international language of Godzilla. I thought this is one for me. I don't know what it's about, but it's got something to do with Godzilla. Okay. I feel like the reason Jurassic works so well is because for millions of years, you know, we were mammals, and you have a bunch of instincts like eat, sleep, reproduce. And every day something might come and eat you or your family. And then in the modern world, we've pushed nature out and we have buildings and cities. And so that instinct seems to have disappeared. But the second you go to the cinema and watch this film, it comes straight back. And I think it's a very primal thing in human nature to be afraid of the big animal that might come and kill someone, ourselves or someone we love. And so I think these films work on that level and it's never going to go away. I think you're always going to have monster movies for as long as there are people in the world.
Well, I think this film is one of the most exciting things to watch in the cinema. It's loud, it's scary, but also, because he couldn't be here, Mahershala Ali, who I know sends his love to Korean fans, and I think Korean fans are going to love him. He's one of our best actors with 2 Oscars, and you want to see him on the screen.
네, 스칼렛.
I think I have such a vivid memory of watching this film with my family in the theater when I was 10 years old watching Jurassic Park. And I remember the collective terror, the collective awe, the collective, you know, laughs and gasps. And it was just such a great time. And I think, you know, seeing this film, because it's so not only visually stunning, but it's audibly so stunning. And, you know, you don't get that experience in your home theater. I think just being able to have that collective experience with an audience is really singular. And so I can't imagine that, you know, it would be something you would get more out of just watching at home. Yeah.
이번에 팝콘 날아가나요?
And you need the popcorn. And you need the popcorn. That's right.
Are people going to be throwing it around due to the shock value? Yes?
Yeah, and they have a new trend in the US where we throw popcorn at the screen, which is also insane. Hopefully it didn't make it all the way over here, but yeah, no, definitely the popcorn's going to be right in the area.
마지막으로 루퍼트.
And from you?
You know, Gareth Edwards, our director, is one of the great masters of cinematic scale. You know, he knows how to take you into a world and then open your eyes to the sheer enormity of it, whether that's the dinosaurs or the waterfalls or, you know, a jungle that ranges far and wide. And he shot the film on 35mm. He shot it as a film to be seen in the cinema, and it really pays off going and seeing it the way that the director intended.
네, 시네플레이츠 아영 기자입니다.
네, 반갑습니다.
이번 작품은 스필버그 감독님의 쥬라기 공원 1의 주제관을 이어받으면서 인간의 자연 통제 불가능성 혹은 자연에 관한 인간의 오만을 이번 작품에 녹여냈다고 생각하는데요. 이번 작품의 제작으로도 참여하신 스티븐 스필버그 감독님과 어떤 이야기를 주고받았는지 궁금하고요. 또 생태주의적인 시선을 가지고 새로운 쥬라기월드 시리즈를 시작하게 된 이유, 그리고 이 영화가 전하는 주제에 대한 감독님의 생각이 궁금합니다. 감독님께 질문 드린 거예요.
네, 마지막 질문 감독님께 주셨습니다.
Yeah, I mean, Steven Spielberg is my hero. He's in my mind, he's like Santa Claus, and shouldn't exist in the real world. So it's very strange when you're in a room or in a conversation and Steven Spielberg is there. Can never get used to that. I remember on set, we were filming at night, and Frank Marshall, who's the producer, who's an older man now, handed me his phone. And when an older person hands you a phone, you think they want some help with the settings. And so I started trying to help him, like, what is it, Wi-Fi? And then I saw on the phone that his screensaver was Steven Spielberg, and I thought, oh, that's a bit weird. And then suddenly the screensaver moved and went, hello, Gareth. And I realized it was Steven Spielberg, and it was a FaceTime call. And I was like, oh, whoa. And I was like so nervous because I'm talking to my hero. I start handing it around to the rest of the group, and Jonathan was a little shy as well. He went running off and hid in a cave, so he didn't have to talk to the master of cinema. And Jonathan, I think, has a line in the movie that sums up probably the theme the best, I thought. Do you remember, Jonathan, the line? 99.9% of all species. You got it. So 99.9% of all species that have existed on Earth are now extinct. Yeah. And it was really shocking when I read that. And so basically the question at the heart of the movie is not, is the Earth going to be okay? It's, are we going to be okay? Like, is the human race going to make it? And I think these films, they're a lot of fun. Ultimately, there's always a little something important in there that's just hidden. I think that's what makes storytelling great. And for me, it's about nature and man's relationship to nature, and be careful with the planet. I think it's a good lesson for everybody.
아쉽지만 이제 끝 인사를 부탁드려야 될 것 같습니다.
We're so excited to be here. We cannot wait to meet all the Korean fans tonight. As my colleague said, we hear you're the most enthusiastic, excited, and possibly loud fans on the planet. So we're looking forward to hearing you all later.
You know, I'm, as you said, a massive Jurassic fan. So I think the most exciting thing is just to meet other huge Jurassic fans. I'm so excited for all of the Jurassic fans here in Korea to see the film that I am incredibly proud of and also an enormous fan of. I, as I said earlier, saw the movie in the theater when I was 9 or 10. And I'm so excited for other 9 or 10-year-olds to see this movie in the theater here in Korea, and for this to be their formative memory, formative experience. It's we're very honored to share that with you.
Yeah, I remember the feeling of adventure when I saw Jurassic for the first time. The feeling of adventure last summer when we all met and we made this film together. And now we've had this big adventure going around the world. Introducing the film, and I'm so happy and emotional that it ends in Korea. And we get to invite you to now go on an adventure, and we hand it over to you. And I cannot wait to see everyone tonight.
감사합니다, 감독님.
Before I started making this film, it was my girlfriend's birthday, and I didn't know what to get her for a birthday present. And she's a massive K-pop fan, so I bought her tickets to see Blackpink. And I'd never been before to anything like that. And I went, it was in Los Angeles, and the fandom, it just blew my mind. I'd never had that experience of love, you know, by thousands of people before. And it made me realize, like, out of everywhere we go in the world, Korea is going to have the best reaction. And I hear we're about to do a premiere in this massive mall with 5 stories high of fans. So we've been saving the best to last. Like, this is going to top everything, I think.
Also, where we filmed in Thailand, the next hotel, they were filming an American TV series with Lisa. And so I was always at night shouting out for Lisa to see if she could hear me.
자, 이제 중앙을 봐주시고 하트 가볼까요?
Can we do the heart for the center?
와우!
Straight ahead.
완벽하게 연습해 오셨어요.
Perfect. Perfect.
그 상태로 왼쪽으로
Can we
만드시죠.
hold the same pose for the left side? The same pose for the left cameras. Thank you.